In India's sweltering south, where life largely is as it's largely been, there is a pocket of building impatience. It is his impatience. Chandrasekhar Sankurathri, Dr. Chandra to people here. His morning exercise, pacing, always pacing, within the walls of a compound built by grief and generosity. His mind always planning. Don't you get tired?
Not at all, really. I don't feel at all that way. Everybody says I'm working very hard, which I don't think I'm working hard. I wish I can help much more harder, that's what I say. All these things.
Work harder? If anything, this is a man who deserves peace. You may know his story by now. Once a Canadian government biologist in Ottawa with a wife he adored and two gorgeous, kind children. All three then taken from him in the Air India explosion in 1985. A few years aching for them changed everything. He quit his job, left Canada, moved to his wife's village, Kakinada, and got to work. It was 2005 when CBC got its first look at that work. A primary school free for the region's poorest, kids who otherwise might not even have learned to read. And he built an eye hospital, again free for the poor, offering the sort of cataract surgery utterly out of reach before he appeared. All of this modestly funded by donations and most from Canadians. When Chandra first came here some 20 years ago, all of this was rural. This very spot was farmland, but clearly it's roared along with India's economic growth. But an increase in activity can also mean an increase in poverty and problems. And so for Chandra, it means a new challenge. Just what does he do to adapt? Well, he says, you listen to the kids. They wanted more than primary school. They were sad to graduate and have nowhere to go. So he built them a high school. Discipline, respect, love, these are his creeds at the school he named after his daughter. He says he suspects she would have loved the camaraderie, even the morning assemblies. And he knows he's making a difference here. In a region where 59% of kids drop out of primary school, all 1,600 children who've been through Dr. Chandra's school have graduated.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
As some of them told CBC 5 years ago, they had clear ambitions.
Doctor. 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 Teacher.
Doctor.
Social teacher.
And now?
Engineer. Doctor. Degree. Teacher.
Become a good electrical engineer. Become a good mechanical engineering.
The aims of those very same kids are still as broad as their smiles, but there have been problems.
Family problems and money problem.
Did they want you to work sooner?
Yeah.
Family money issues means they've changed their dreams to find work that can bring cash home soon. To make sure families don't go without, Dr. Chandra has also come up with another idea, a vocational institute. So while the kids are at school, their mothers learn how to make clothes to sell. Absolutely everything that happens here is funded by donations.
A good donor from Vancouver, he suddenly came here, he saw the place, he liked it, and he said, no, I'll do my bit, and he did it. There you go, the building is ready now.
And Dr. Chandra just keeps doing his bit, more than his bit. That eye hospital has now performed 160,000 free cataract surgeries, 1.6 million people treated as outpatients. But no longer content with finding ways to bring acute patients to the clinic, Dr. Chandra now scours villages for any early signs of eye trouble. Again, it's kids who are his concern.
See, that is called Bytard spot. That's the indication of vitamin A deficiency. He has the same thing in both eyes.
A vitamin A deficiency could eventually mean blindness, so a few supplements, instructions about nutrition, and he's off. Another crisis averted. Spend enough time with Dr. Chandra and you get the sense he is scrambling to avert as many crises as he can. Some are dizzyingly big. Now he wants to tackle malaria and dengue fever by dealing with festering pools of mosquito larvae.
You really think getting rid of the mosquitoes is actually doable?
Yes, it's not impossible thing to do.
And that's what you're asking these kids to help you with?
Yes.
So get rid of the mosquito threat, educate kids, make sure they eat well, see well, live well, and then worry about finding a way to keep the foundation going long after he's gone. He has to do this, he says, in part to send a message to the terrorists who kill indiscriminately, like those who killed his family.
They should know several good things can come out of their acts too, because their mission is only to destroy mindlessly, aimlessly, right? So if they know some good things coming out of their terrorist activities, maybe they won't do it. I hope so. Good morning. Any carrier?
What you will never hear from Dr. Chandra is a word about what he might need.
At this stage, I don't exist. I have no choices. I have no preferences. I have no taste. As I said before, I don't care about holidays and all that. That's not what my goal is about. I'm content with what I'm doing. I keep on doing what I'll do to the last day. You need a companion in life. You may not need it now.
This is a man who's never had counseling for his grief, who definitely doesn't want to dwell on what's happened. He wants instead just to show you what is possible. So what's up here?
Here, nothing right now. The terrace was done.
A quick trip to the top floor of his high school. It sits empty, waiting for more projects he knows will come. You're growing up with these kids, aren't you?
Yes.
You're starting with them very, very young, and then you built a high school, now you want a vocational institute.
Yeah, that's right. And I started with grade 1. Some of them are working here. Some of them are already got married, and probably some of them have children. I'm just growing. My family is growing too.
His family. One small, tight, loving unit lost. One large, ever-growing community found. He is hanging on to them, helping them for as long as he can, giving everything he has left to make sure they live. Adrian Arsenault, CBC News, Kakinada, India.
It's hard to get much further away from the cares of the world than Salt Spring Island, a West Coast haven for well-heeled retirees and a few tourists in the summertime. But at the Anglican Church on Salt Spring, they are very much involved in the cares of the world.
So we thank you all for your wonderful support.
Tonight, 80 people have turned out to help a remarkable Canadian known as Dr. Chandra. He sounds Indian, but he says thinks like a Canadian.
Why? I think I'm more Canadian than Indian. Because I think Canada has a lot of influence on me. The way I think, the way I act, the way I feel.
Still, Dr. Chandra's work takes place on the other side of the world, in the Indian state of Andhra Pradesh. It is here that Dr. Chandra runs a charitable mission to bring education and health care to an impoverished rural population. The mission was born of a personal tragedy. Dr. Chandra used to be a biologist for the federal government in Ottawa, where he hoped to raise a family. In 1985, his wife and children died in the Air India bombing. After years of grief, he rebuilt his life and many other lives. Using donations from his friends in Canada and around the world, he went back to India and set up an elementary school for children who otherwise might never even learn to read and write. Then he also built an eye hospital to treat the cataracts that blind millions of people in India. So far, Dr. Chandra's surgeons have saved the sight of nearly 200,000 people at a cost of only $50 each.
You can see everything. You can see all the colors.
4 years ago, a CBC documentary called Ray of Light helped to galvanize Dr. Chandra's fundraising. And now he's built a high school as well, and a vocational school. And half of the donations to keep it all going come from Canadians. People like Hubert King, a retired engineer on Salt Spring.
A little bit goes a long way. I think that's the... Although times are tough, you don't have to give much, and it's sort of multiplied, and you can see for a little amount given, a lot happening. I think that's what impresses people.
What is so remarkable about Dr. Chandra's fundraising is that this is how it is. From tiny Salt Spring Island to a little school in Ottawa, it's small-scale retail fundraising with small groups writing small checks that make an enormous difference. Now, though, Dr. Chandra's mission faces a new challenge. It's getting bigger and people have come to depend on him. He needs to do more than just keep going for 1 year at a time. He needs an endowment fund to keep it going permanently.
In the next 5 years, we want to make our projects sustainable on their own by the revenues generated within India and also by creating some sort of an endowment fund.
For that, he needs donors who can write much bigger checks. People like Nordin Madatali, a wealthy businessman in West Vancouver. He and his wife visited Dr. Chandra in India and decided we have to help.
There wasn't a moment when there were no tears coming down my eyes, our eyes, my wife and I's, and the throat was dry. We were absolutely taken back by this Dr. Chandra's service to humanity as such.
Dr. Chandra's work does have that effect on visitors. They see the faces of the eye patients as they realize they can see their grandchildren again, and the faces of the school children sitting under the mango trees and seizing a chance that most Indian children will never get. It's a very long way from Salt Spring, but so far, Dr. Chandra's friends in Canada keep writing those checks, both big and small. Terry Milewski, CBC News on Salt Spring Island.